Hello guys, and welcome back to a new video. So this video is not clickbait, and it's an essential video for you to watch if you're a Palantir investor, because they have been misleading us and misleading the investors, and this is true in 2022, in 2023, this will be true in 2024, 2025, or whenever you watch this video, and I will prove it to you. So the thing is that Palantir either hates Wall Street or they're not allowed to disclose certain facts. So instead of telling exactly what they are doing, they speak in very cloudy, fuzzy language, like instead of saying we're helping Ukraine, spot Russian submarines so that they can anticipate them, they say, yeah, we help them get the data together from data silos, and the ontology needs to be together. And the problem with this is it's probably both. I believe that they hate Wall Street, and I also believe that they're just simply not allowed to speak about the products that they're working on, both from the commercial and the government customers. The reason why this is super important for us as investors is because we need to know that they're never going to be the company that we want them to be. Meaning they're never going to be fully transparent with what they're doing, and you will actually have to read between the lines, watch the earnings calls, see how confident they are, see what they're saying, and you have to believe in them a little bit. And I don't think there's a problem with this as long as you know this. And I really want to help you with this. We will go through exactly what happened, how I found this out, and you will be shocked because it's like a modern day Da Vinci Code. And when you know this data and what I'm telling you, then you will also start seeing it. For example, it was all over the Q1 earnings release. It's just if you didn't know that they're not allowed to speak about what they're doing and how they're doing, you will miss it and you will think it was a horrible earnings call. So what did actually happen in this, and how did I figure this out? And by the way, if you like this video, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos like this. The last earnings call left a lot of investors unhappy. And first of all, Alex Karp started the earnings call with talking about philosophy. A lot of people got pissed on that. And then they guided for worse numbers. They guided for a very low operating margin. They didn't explain why. And then they dodged questions when they were straight asking, why is this? Why are you guiding for this? And it was just not a good look. So I want to show you how the earnings call began.
Welcome to our earnings. We are in London. In past earnings calls and over the course of 2 decades, we've been involved in many of the most important things that have affected Western society. But what makes these times special is the trends that we believed would happen are happening at an accelerating rate. And what's super interesting is, why is the broader world so late in recognizing how these things are accelerating, what's happening? What is the genesis of the escapism that our broader institutions, financial, cultural, legal, technical, why are they escaping to the metaverse?
And this is where things go very bad for most investors, because he starts talking about philosophy and metaverse. Again, my theory is that it's because he cannot talk about anything else. But if you listen to this section again, already in this section, he starts explaining how things are happening exactly how they thought that things would be happening. It's just he doesn't go into details, but he starts saying it. And again, once you know what I will cover later in the video, it will all make sense. He even says this.
Work like that. Reality doesn't work like that. Palantir, we are playing a critical, crucial, and much bigger role than we're allowed to mention or whatever, discuss in public.
He says it right here. We are playing a much bigger role than we are allowed to discuss in public. It's all right there.
In current events, obviously commercially, because our partners and other future partners are being disrupted, their supply chains are disrupted, there's a threat of a disruption in the broader economy, and then many realize that the reality of a truly monumental, epic, and horrific disruption in the form of a nuclear attack is much higher than is being reported. But also in the government context, where we are playing an outsized role, and we're very proud of that, and we're proud of the people we're able to support, and and we're also eager to continue to help to support them.
So again, also in the government, we play an outsized role, and we are very proud of the people that we support. It doesn't say what they do, and I think this is what drives people nuts. So if you have heard about a Chinese author's book called Art of War, I actually have read that book. And because they are somehow a military company, or they're helping, the Western governments with their defense, there's one thing in this book that the author says, is that when you're retreating, make the enemy think that you're attacking. When you're attacking, make the enemy think that you're, retreating, and so on and so on. So obviously they, for so many reasons, they can't go out and say that right now we're working with Ukraine how to track the Russian soldiers on satellite and the submarines so that we can anticipate their moves. Or they can say that we can follow with our Meta constellation, we can follow the Russian supply chains, and then we can message it via Starlink to Ukrainian guerrilla fighters who can then anticipate and sabotage, the supply chains, even back in Russia. So, I mean, obviously, but this is what the investors want to hear. They want to hear, like, what are you guys doing? Exactly what you're working on. And it's so logical that they're just not allowed, or they don't want to. I think it's both. They just can't inform us about it. So now I'm going to show you what freaked people out in earnings report that they said. So basically in Q2, they guided for 470 million in revenue, which is a less increase than they guided for, because it's only a 5% increase, from quarter to quarter. And it's less than a 30% increase from Q2 last year. And what's even worse is that they are saying that the operating margin is going to be 20%, which is way lower than what they guided for. And obviously this is a huge red light. So this means that they're incurring costs and, their profit margin is lessening, and they give no explanation of why. Then they are saying, in another weird thing, that we continue to expect a 27% operating margin for the full year. So if they didn't hit the 27% in Q1, which they didn't, and then they're going to 20%, the only way to keep the 27% is that they're going to have like 37 or 38 in Q3 and Q4, or 30. I didn't do the math, but you get the point. It needs to be like 34 and 34, right? No explanation of how they're planning to do this and why. And then they're guiding for revenue growth of 30% for this year and the next 3 years to come. Again, no explanation of why, when their government revenue is considerably slowing. This is also why Cathie Wood sold the company. Let me just find the chart for you. Here is the chart that freaked everybody out, is that their government revenue, if you look on in a quarterly setting, it keeps just declining. I believe it's like 37, 30, 25, and now 16. Don't quote me on the numbers, but it is a huge deceleration, and they're not giving any reasons why. So a few days ago, something happened that made me completely realize what they were doing and why they were hiding what they were doing. And it just, things suddenly started making sense. And I think you have to know this as a Palantir investor. So what happened a few days ago? They came out with this new product called Palantir Europa, and you can check it out. I can put the link in the video. It will be right below our Patreon link if you want to support the channel. Shameless plug right there. Obviously there's a lot of technical details about this product that I'm not going to pretend that I understand. What I got out of it is that it's made for Europe. It's somehow the European countries are going to be able to very easily collaborate with one another, and it will have space connection, and the program will know if, a German guy is sending data to French, it will automatically know like what the French guy can see and not see. And yeah, a lot of other technical things. Here's Director of General European Intelligence Agency who's writing good words about it, and it just looks like a fantastic update. And this is when it hit me. It costs a lot of freaking money to do, very big updates. So most probably what they were not telling us, and I'm going to prove this in the earnings call because it's a modern day Da Vinci Code. They were hinting about it, is it costs a lot of money to do this. They even mentioned so many times that their war chest and the balance sheet meaning that they can sacrifice their, short-term profits and put a lot of focus in this and use the situation, develop this product. And even if the European customers are not ready and the contracts are not signed yet, they can start delivering service. And this is the exact thing that hits their margins, because they are doing it on pure speculation, or, they're going to actually say that they are doing work that is not contracted for, that they hope that they will get paid for. And obviously this hits their margin like crazy. And then, when these things happen, then later in the year, it super much helps their margin. And again, what happens when Palantir, gets a foot into a government organization? They have a net retention of 120, 130%. So it's fantastic for the company, because they gain huge goodwill with the countries and different governments. And then they're just going to spread and increase and, really, really grow their company in Europe, which has been a very tough spot for them. So I basically realized that they were completely sandbagging this. They were not answering questions about this, but they were hinting all through the conference call. And I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to tell you how they could have answered these questions. And again, they either hate Wall Street or they're not allowed to talk about it. I think it's both. But once you see this, you will understand that Palantir is never going to be the transparent company that everybody wants them to be, that is, has very good relationship with the investors. And unfortunately, if you know this, you will learn to trust them, trust Alex Karp, and you have to trust their numbers. And as long as the numbers are growing up, the net retention stays high, they're getting new customers, it means that the overall plan and thesis is working, and you just keep your money in Palantir. The moment the net retention, they start losing customers, the product is not sticky anymore, they're not getting new customers, it's time to sell. But they're never going to say it in the earnings calls. So here is the first case in point.
B asks,
okay, so the analysts directly asked them. So obviously they could say, yes, we're working on this new product that is going to help the European governments, fight the Russians, and we're going to, do this with the satellite images. But obviously it would be counterproductive, probably violate laws, and then the Russians would know what they're doing. So they straight out don't answer the question.
Thank you, Karnish. We have released so much new product. Pipeline Builder has improved data integration productivity 2 to 3x at the NHS. Autonomous sales and operation planning and execution. The hospital operations suite. Meta Constellation. Edge AI and Edge Stream. And beyond new product, we are bringing to market 15 years of deep tech that we built to power Gotham and Foundry. Nexus Peering, our distributed DDIL data fabric, is going to power the next decade of DoD programs. Apollo is going to take our customers from continuous deployment to autonomous deployment. And this is what we're focused on. Everything else, financials, performance, those are the consequences of our execution on this focus. We built software the world needs before the world knows it needs it. The prescience of our software arises from a deep love and respect for the institutions that are required for the world to function, and a deep understanding of the macro geopolitical shifts that some might say are coming, but we would say have already arrived. And the practicality of our software arises from the deep love of our users, the humans who are at the coalface, who do the hard work day in and day out, from the factory floors of Detroit to the cold concrete floors that refugees are sleeping on in Warsaw.
I just let you finish this.
Software for the world as it is today, to help our customers and their humans manage to get to the world that ought to be.
It's almost comical. He doesn't answer the question. He doesn't say, within a month, this was released on May, 18th, and the conference call was May 9th. So don't tell me he didn't know that they're going to release this product. And they didn't say a word. But they were hinting that, the current political situations, some say it's coming and there's going to be hardships. But we already know it's here. We're building the software that they will be using tomorrow. But we're building it now. It's comical. It's almost comical. And it just gets worse, I promise.
Dave, this next question is for you. Deepak C asks, when is the company targeting to be GAAP profitable?
Again, they could just say, we are releasing this product, and then the European governments, Poland, Germany, and this is going to buy from us. And with our projections, it's going to be here. They are a freaking data analytics company who uses, AI to predict the future. Don't tell me they can't predict this. So it's comical how they're not answering this question. Really listen to the answer.
We had a negative
an improvement from negative 14% in Q4 and from negative 33% in Q1 2021. So we're making significant progress. And Q1 was our strongest GAAP quarter to date. And not to mention, last year, for the full year, we posted $424 million in adjusted free cash flow with a 31% adjusted operating margin. And we're already off to a strong start this year. But with that said, we're preparing for a world that has the highest chance of a nuclear war in my lifetime, let alone since my parents were kids. And as Alex discussed, the quality of our government revenue, as viewed through growth, margin performance, durability, and resilience, is unique to Palantir.
Again, comical, because he's saying we are, like, he says all this blah blah blah, and then he says, yes, we are at the highest, chance of nuclear war since we're kids, and we're preparing for this, meaning we're working on products to handle this, and the quality of the government revenue and the endurance and the stickiness of our product is going to be of great help. You just have to freaking read between the lines. It's comical.
Regarding the government business, can you talk to the acceleration that you're seeing in the business? And I think you called out the United States as where you're seeing the re-acceleration. Can you also speak to the rest of the world and what you're seeing there?
Again, the analyst is asking a very, very reasonable question. So your government business is deaccelerating based on your numbers. You're very cocky and confident that they're going to reaccelerate. Can you tell us why you think it? It would be, they could have said, because we are building this, Gothem Europe software. It's ordered. We are in talks with C&so government that they are going to order this. Again, watch how they answer the question.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brent. We have been working with the U.S. government for 15 years, and over the last decade, we have seen a 30% CAGR, and that covers times of peace and times of conflict.
Meaning, you stupid investors, chill. It's been 30% CAGR, compounded annual growth, the last 10 years, and it ain't about to change. Chill.
And I've already talked about our involvement with current events and the role that we're playing there, and you can kind of...
We already Da Vinci hinted about the current events and what we're doing there.
See the reacceleration starting to happen with the wins, the work that we're doing with D6CD2, which was literally built for a land war in Europe, the expansion of the work that we have with the UK Royal Navy, the framework agreement that we have in Germany with state and local police covering Bavaria, North Rhine-Westphalia, Hesse, the work that we're doing in space with US Spacecom and Warp Core, but really the knock-on opportunities that creates for us with allies as they approach space. And so the end result of this is that in Q2, we've started to see the U.S. government business reaccelerate. We're doing a substantial amount of work right now where we are investing in our customers.
First clue. We're doing substantial amount of work right now where we're investing into customers. Again, an explanation of the hit into the margin. Obviously, now we know that they were working on this Gothem Europa product.
We expect that work to have both short-term but also longer-term payoffs. We're doing work now that matters and will likely be contracted.
That will likely be contracted. I love how they're saying this.
But we're also doing work that is defining the requirements for defense procurements over the decades to come here.
So, as a Palantir investor, what I hear, again, knowing the data that we know now, is that they are basically getting new customers, and positive effects that they're going to get from this is going to be for the next decades. Like, that's what they're expecting. That's a bullish sign, needless to say.
I'm hoping that you can. I think you guys might have cut out on me, but I wanted to double click on the range of upside that you referred to in your Q2 guidance. How much of that variability is coming from commercial versus government? And how should we think about the variability and what it means for your 30% revenue and 27% margin guide for the full year?
So he's asking, you idiots, you didn't tell us, where you see this upside and, how the F you can guide for a lower operating margin, but a much higher operating margin towards the end of the year. Could you tell us what the hell is going on?
Thank you. So in this macro environment, we feel very well positioned for the full year and beyond.
The Da Vinci language again. Look at this with what you know today. With Gothem Europe almost released, and we know that we're getting all these contracts, and we know that we're going to be, those governments will be stuck with us for the next decades.
Our U.S. government revenue represented 42% of our Q1 revenue, and a significant amount of this is in the defense space. Commercial business has been outpacing the government business, accelerating in each of the last 5 quarters to a 54% growth rate in Q1. And as Sean just mentioned, in Q2, we've already seen some reacceleration in U.S. government business, which we think is a long-term trend, and expect acceleration of the overall government segment this quarter or shortly after.
Appreciate it. Maybe I just wanted to go a little bit more into understanding the range of outcomes in Q2. You talked about maybe where you can get a little bit more upside. Can you walk us through maybe a full set of assumptions there, and more importantly, when there's a base case and you're hinting at a bull case, what is a potential bear case that you would be thinking about in Q2, just given everything that you're seeing?
The analyst is asking a completely reasonable question, because they didn't answer this in their presentation, and then the analyst that was just before him, the one that we just listened to, asked the same exact question, and they didn't effing answer it. And this is what's bothering this guy, so he's asking the question again.
From a macro perspective. Thank you.
Look, the base case is really establishing how we're thinking about the visibility that we have. The upside is quite large. I mean, a lot of this comes down to contract timing and the acceleration of events. There's a fair amount of work that's in flight here. The way that we engage with customers is we're not going to deprive you of help in your moments of greatest need when you're at war, because paperwork isn't in yet.
I think here he directly referenced the war, and he basically said that they have this war chest of $2.3 billion in the bank, no loans, and they can basically afford to take these risks. And if the customers need them, then they're going to do the work, and they hope they get paid in the end.
So we think we have visibility into the upside. We're not going to comment on the specifics of it, but it's meaningful.
And here they're telling us that, they see something and it's very meaningful if it comes through, but they're just choosing not to tell us.
But it's also hard to predict. And what we need to be focused on right now is just delivering, not only because of what it implies for this quarter, the next quarter, in this full year, but what it implies for the long-term growth of the business and the relevance we have to solving the most important problems in the world.
And he again says that this is not just important for this quarter or the next quarter, but this is for the long-term things to come if they can get these government contracts. So this was a very long video, but I believe that if you're a Palantir investor, you had to know about this. You had to see this. It's actually nuts how that now that this product was released, and we look back at the earnings call, they were basically saying all of it. It's just not in the way that investors are used to. And unfortunately, they're not going to change about this. So you have to be comfortable with this if you're a long-term investor in Palantir. And you have to believe in them when they say their projections. And obviously, if the numbers don't pan out, and you have to give them a few quarters of leeway, but their guidance is bad and the customers are, starting to leave them and they start negative growth, obviously their thesis is dead. But as long as they're delivering, and in Q1, they delivered on everything that they have said, they are an amazing company. And I must say, I've never been more bullish on this company. Now, rewatching this conference call, I really recommend that you also do the same. And you will see it's all over the conference call. And the reason why Alex Karp talks about German philosophy is because he can't talk about anything else for national security or whatever reasons, or he doesn't want. And he doesn't give a flying F. Maybe he even likes this. That is not for us to answer. But the only important thing is Palantir is this way, and they're not going to change, and you need to be okay with this as an investor if you're investing into them. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.